Reckoning dawn. The massive engines of the HSV Vindicator hummed to life, a deep vibration that resonated through the hidden shipyard nestled within the asteroid belt of Proxima Centauri. Captain Ilara Rice stood silently on the bridge, her weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. 5 years had passed since the Scourge attack. 5 years since Earth burned. Ilara's fingers traced the jagged scar that ran from her temple to her jaw, a permanent reminder of the day she'd lost everything. Sydney had been the first to fall, vaporized in seconds by the alien weapons. Her wife and daughter had been visiting Ilara's parents there when the attack began. She hadn't even been able to say goodbye. "Final systems check complete, Captain," announced Commander Victor Chen, his voice cutting through her memories. "All stations report ready." Ilara nodded, her eyes fixed on the main view screen showing the asteroid field that had concealed humanity's final hope. "Status of the Singularity Drive. Operating at optimal capacity," replied Dr. Maya Singh from the engineering station. The physicist had designed the experimental propulsion system that would give the Vindicator its crucial advantage. "We can initiate the first jump whenever you're ready." The Vindicator wasn't just a warship, it was humanity's answer to extinction. Built in secret by the survivors of the Scourge attack, it incorporated every technological breakthrough humans could muster, some reverse-engineered from salvaged Scourge technology. Its purpose was singular: find the Scourge homeworld and make them pay for what they'd done to Earth. Ilara settled into the command chair, feeling its responsive contours adjust to her form. Hyperion. Ship status. The ship's artificial intelligence responded instantly, its neutral voice filling the bridge. "All systems nominal, Captain Reyes. Crew revival from cryostasis proceeding on schedule. Weapons systems at full capacity. Stealth systems engage." "Very good." Ilara addressed the bridge crew, all hands selected from the remnants of humanity's military forces. "You all know why we're here. The Scourge believed they'd wiped us out, but they missed a few of us. Enough to build this ship. Enough to ensure humanity doesn't disappear without a reckoning." No one spoke. They didn't need to. Every person aboard the Vindicator had lost someone, usually everyone. When the Scourge attacked Earth and its colonies without warning or mercy, the ship's mission wasn't just military. It was personal for all 287 souls aboard. "Set course for the Epsilon Eridani system," Ilara ordered. Intelligence gathered from destroyed Scourge scout ships suggested a forward operating base there. "Prepare for singularity jump on my mark." The ship's engine shifted tone, the hum deepening as they channeled power to the experimental drive. Outside, space itself seemed to bend as the Vindicator's bow began to glow with an eerie purple light. "Mark." Reality tore open before them, creating a controlled micro-singularity that pulled the massive warship forward into its embrace. The stars stretched and blurred, and then they were gone, traveling through a shortcut in spacetime that no human vessel had ever attempted before. The jump lasted only moments. When the Vindicator emerged back into normal space, the system of Epsilon Eridani sprawled before them, its red dwarf star casting an angry glow across the bridge. "Stealth systems holding," reported Lieutenant Sarah Okoro at Tactical. "No indication they've detected our arrival." "Hyperion, full system scan," Ilara commanded. The AI worked silently for a moment before displaying a holographic representation of the system. "Scourge presence confirmed. Detecting multiple vessels in orbit around the fourth planet. Ground installation on the surface. Approximately 87 Scourge life signs." Ilara leaned forward, studying the projection. "Analysis of defenses. Standard perimeter alert systems. 2 destroyer-class vessels. Multiple fighter crafts. The ground installation appears to be a research facility of some kind." Ilara exchanged glances with Victor. This was more than they'd hoped for. Not just a target for their vengeance, but potentially valuable intelligence as well. "Captain," Hyperion's voice interrupted her thoughts. "I'm detecting an anomalous signal. It appears to be a distress beacon, but it doesn't match known scourge patterns. Origin? Ilara asked, her brow furrowing. A small moon orbiting the system's sixth planet. The signal is weak, indicating it may have been active for some time. Victor frowned. Could be a trap. Or another species the scourge have attacked, countered Maya. We've always suspected Earth wasn't their first target. Ilara considered her options. Their mission was clear, reconnaissance followed by destruction. But intelligence was valuable, and if there were other victims of the scourge, potential allies might be found. Adjust course for the moon. Maintain stealth protocols, and prepare a scout team. I want to know what's broadcasting that signal before we engage the main scourge force. 4 hours later, Ilara stood in the Vindicator's hangar bay as the scout ship returned. The small vessel's airlock cycled open, and Lieutenant Okoro emerged, her expression unreadable. Report, Lieutenant, Ilara demanded. Captain, you need to see this for yourself, Sarah replied, stepping aside to reveal what, or rather who, had followed her from the scout ship. The creature stood just over 5 feet tall, its slender body covered in iridescent scales that shifted from blue to green as it moved. Large, compound eyes dominated a face that seemed almost delicate, and 4 arms emerged from its torso, the lower pair shorter than the upper. This is Kandar, Sarah explained. And according to our translators, he's been waiting for us, or someone like us, for over a decade. Ilara's hand instinctively moved toward her sidearm, but the alien made a gesture with its upper hands that the translator interpreted as peaceful. You are the retribution, Sandar said, his words processed through the translator with a slight delay. Just as the prophecy foretold. What prophecy? Ilara demanded. And how do you know our language? I have studied the transmissions from your world for many cycles, the alien explained. I was a scholar of extinct civilizations. When the Harbingers came to my world, I recognized the pattern. Harbingers, Victor asked. You mean the Scourge? That is your name for them. They have destroyed 17 known civilizations across this arm of the galaxy. My people, the Varine, were the 16th. Your kind would have been the 18th. Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. Would have been. Xandar's eyes shifted, the facets catching the light. They believe they succeeded. They always ensure no technological civilization remains to seek vengeance. Except this time, they failed. In the ship's conference room, Xandar displayed holographic records salvaged from Varine archives before their world's destruction. The images showed a pattern repeated across multiple star systems: sudden attacks, systematic destruction of military and civilian targets, and thorough eradication of any technology that might allow survivors to rebuild. The Harbingers believe themselves to be gardeners of the galaxy, Xandar explained. They allow species to develop to a certain point, then eliminate them before they can become a threat to galactic stability. This has been their purpose for millennia. Who gave them the right to make that decision? Maya asked, her voice tight with anger. They believe it is their evolutionary purpose, Xandar replied. Their own civilization nearly destroyed itself through technological advancement. They survived only by adopting a strict religious doctrine that views unchecked technological progress as the ultimate sin. Ilara studied the alien carefully. Why help us? Why wait here for years on the slim chance someone like us would come along? Xandar's upper hands made a gesture the translator couldn't interpret. Because the Harbingers must be stopped. Their crusade against technological species has halted progress across this entire sector of the galaxy, and because the prophecy said you would come. What prophecy? Victor asked again. Before my world fell, our greatest minds used quantum probability mathematics to calculate possible futures. They saw only one path where the Harbinger's cycle of destruction ended. A survivor species, tempered by near extinction, would build a weapon of unprecedented power. Your ship is that weapon. Ilara exchanged glances with her senior officers. The Vindicator had been designed for one purpose: destruction. But now they were being told it might serve a greater purpose. The Harbingers have never faced a species that survived their purge, Sandar continued. They have no contingency for this. Their base in this system is crucial to their operations. It serves as a forward staging area for their continuing expansion. Ilara turned to the tactical display, studying the Scourge, or Harbinger, facility. Then we'll hit them there first. Captain. Xandar's voice took on a new urgency. There is something else you should know before you attack. Something that might change how you view this conflict. What's that? Ilara asked, suddenly wary. The facility below. It contains members of my species. Prisoners forced to work on Harbinger technology. And the alien hesitated. It may also contain humans. A stunned silence fell over the conference room. Explain, Ilara demanded, her voice dangerously quiet. The Harbingers don't just destroy. They study. They take samples, individuals, technology, cultural artifacts. They analyze what they view as the dangerous path of each species' development. And according to the communications I've intercepted, they captured several of your vessels during their attack. Hope and dread warred in Ilara's chest. The possibility that other humans had survived was overwhelming, but the thought of what they might have endured as captives for 5 years was equally disturbing. Hyperion, she called to the ship's eye. Recalibrate our scans of the facility. Look for human biosignatures. After a moment, the AI responded. Confirmed, Captain. I detect 23 human life signs within the research facility. Vital signs indicate stress, but relatively stable health conditions. Ilara felt her hands tighten into fists. Their mission had just become far more complicated. What was planned as a strike of vengeance now required surgical precision. We need a new plan, she announced. We're going to hit that facility, but our primary objective is now rescue and retrieval. Then we destroy everything the Harbingers have built here. As the senior officers began discussing tactics, Ilara found herself staring at the image of the alien base. 5 years of planning for vengeance had sustained her through grief and loss. Now, unexpectedly, she had something else to fight for. Hope. Prepare for combat operations, she ordered. We move at 600. Judgment's Edge. The HSV Vindicator hung in the shadow of Epsilon Eridani's outermost gas giant, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the void. On the bridge, Captain Ilara Rice studied the holographic battle plan one final time. 3 teams, she confirmed, addressing the assembled strike force commanders. Alpha Team secures the human prisoners. Beta Team extracts any intelligence data from their systems. Gamma Team plants the fusion charges at these structural points. She indicated key locations on the facility schematic. The Vindicator will engage the orbital forces to draw attention away from the ground assault. Commander Victor Chen nodded grimly. And if we encounter heavy resistance, we have authorization to use the protomatter warheads if necessary, Ilara replied. But only as a last resort. Our priority is recovering our people. The Special Forces teams, each member a survivor of the Earth attack, checked their weapons with methodical precision. They carried advanced combat suits reverse-engineered from salvaged Harbinger technology, providing both protection and stealth capabilities. Hitandar, now wearing a modified environment suit to accommodate his alien physiology, approached Ilara. I should accompany the Alpha Team. My knowledge of Harbinger facilities may prove useful. Ilara hesitated. Though the alien had provided valuable intelligence, trust didn't come easily after what humanity had endured. Very well, but you'll be under Lieutenant Okoro's direct supervision at all times. The alien made a gesture of agreement with its upper arms. All teams, board your dropships, Ilara commanded. We launch in 15 minutes. As the strike teams filed out, Victor remained behind. You're not going with them. My place is on the bridge, Ilara replied. Though the words tasted bitter, part of her desperately wanted to leave the ground assault, to look into the eyes of the beings that had destroyed her world. The Vindicator needs its captain if things go wrong. Victor nodded, understanding the weight of her decision. What if Xandar is wrong about the prisoners? What if this is a trap? Ilara's jaw tightened. Then we spring the trap and destroy everything anyway. Either way, the Harbingers will learn that humanity isn't so easily erased from existence. The 3 stealth dropships detached from the Vindicator, their black hulls absorbing light as they accelerated toward the 4th planet. On the bridge, Ilara watched their progress on the tactical display. Dropships have entered the atmosphere, reported the tactical officer. No indication of detection yet. Hyperion, status of Harbinger vessels? Ilara asked. 2 destroyer-class ships remain in standard orbit. Fighter patrols continue on predetermined routes. No change in their alert status. Ilara nodded. Bring weapons systems to full power the moment our teams confirm they've reached the facility. We move on the orbital forces. Minutes ticked by intense silence as the dropships descended to the planet's surface. Finally, Lieutenant Okoro's voice came through the comm. Alpha team in position. No external guards detected. Proceeding to entry point. Similar confirmations came from Beta and Gamma teams. The infiltration had begun. Helm, bring us out of hiding, Ilara ordered. Weapons, target the nearest destroyer. Fire on my mark. The Vindicator emerged from the gas giant's shadow, its massive form finally revealing itself as the stealth systems deactivated. Before the Harbinger vessels could react, streams of hyper-accelerated particles erupted from the human warship's main guns, striking the closest destroyer with devastating precision. Direct hit, announced the weapons officer. Their shields are down. Hull breach detected. Second destroyer is powering weapons, warned the tactical officer. Evasive pattern Delta, Ilara commanded. Continue firing on primary target. Let's keep their attention focused on us. The Vindicator rolled gracefully despite its size, avoiding the worst of the enemy fire while continuing its assault on the crippled destroyer. On the planet below, the strike teams used the distraction to penetrate deeper into the Harbinger facility. Alpha Team has breached the detention sector, reported Lieutenant Okoro. Confirming human prisoners. Captain, they're scientists. Civilians. Ilara felt a surge of both relief and anger. Status of the prisoners. Physically intact, though showing signs of long-term stress. They say they'd been forced to work on Harbinger technology. Some kind of temporal mechanics research. Before Ilara could respond, the tactical officer called out, Captain, additional Harbinger vessels detected. 3 ships just emerged from behind the planet's moon. Reinforcements, Ilara realized. They must have had a hidden outpost. Beta team here, came another voice over the comm. We've accessed their main database. Downloading now, but, Captain, you need to see this. Sending visual feed. A portion of Ilara's display shifted to show what Beta Team was seeing. A vast chamber containing what appeared to be a partially disassembled device of enormous complexity. According to the data we're retrieving, continued the Beta Team leader, this is a temporal displacement weapon. The scientists were helping them perfect it. It's how they attack worlds so effectively. They literally remove strategic targets from time-space. Ilara felt a cold realization wash over her. That's how they hit all our major cities simultaneously. Not multiple ships. One weapon striking across time itself. Captain, Hyperion interrupted. The new Harbinger vessels are on an attack vector. Their weapon signatures suggest significantly more powerful armaments than the destroyers we engage. All teams, accelerate your timetables, Ilara ordered. We need those prisoners and that data. Then we're leveling this place. On the surface, Alpha Team had begun evacuating the human scientists when they encountered the first serious resistance. Harbinger security forces converged on the detention area, their crystalline armor deflecting standard weapons fire. Taking heavy fire. Okoro reported. These aren't like the ones we faced before. Standard rounds aren't effective. Use the phase disruptors, Ilara commanded. They should destabilize their molecular structure. In space, the Vindicator was now engaged with 5 Harbinger vessels. Though the human warship's technology was advanced, it hadn't been designed to face such odds. Shields at 63%, reported the Defensive Systems Officer. Microfractures detected in sectors 7 through 12. Ilara gripped the arms of her command chair. Divert power from non-essential systems. Prepare the singularity drive for emergency jump if necessary. Captain, Maya called from her station. The data beta team is retrieving. It's not just weapon schematics. They're downloading the Harbinger's historical archives. Priority is survival data. Ilara replied. We can analyze history later, if we live through this. No, you don't understand, Maya insisted. According to these records, the Harbingers weren't always destroyers of worlds. They were protectors. What? Their history describes an ancient threat, something they call the Void, that consumed entire civilizations. The Harbingers believe technological species inevitably attract this threat when they reach a certain development level. They see themselves as preventing a greater extinction. Ilara had no time to process this information as the ship rocked under enemy fire. Shields at 41%, came the warning. Hull breach on Deck 14, sealing now. Gamma team reporting. A new voice announced over the comm. Charges placed at all designated points. Ready to detonate on your command. Alpha team here, added Okoro. All prisoners secured and returning to dropships. Xandar is. Wait, where did he go? Ilara felt a surge of alarm. Find him, Lieutenant. Captain, Beta team reported. We've lost contact with 2 of our members. The data transfer is complete, but something's happening in the central chamber. Energy readings are spiking. On the bridge, alarms blared as sensors detected a massive power buildup from the planet's surface. They're activating the temporal weapon, Maya realized, studying the data. If it fires, it could erase the Vindicator from existence. All teams, immediate evacuation, Ilara ordered. Return to dropships and launch now. Gamma team, detonate charges. We still have people missing, Okoro protested. That's an order, Lieutenant, Ilara replied, her voice steel. We're out of time. Moments later, the Harbinger facility erupted in multiple explosions as the fusion charges detonated. The blast waves spread across the installation, destroying research labs, communication arrays, and defense systems. Dropships launching, reported the tactical officer. 2 minutes to recovery. The temporal device is still powering up, Maya warned. The charges damaged the facility but didn't reach the central chamber. Ilara made a split-second decision. Helm, take us into low orbit. Weapons, prepare to fire a protomatter warhead directly at the source of those energy readings. Captain, Victor cautioned, if we're that close when it detonates. We'll use the singularity drive to jump clear, Ilara finished. It's our only option. As the Vindicator descended into the planet's atmosphere, its massive form generating shock waves that flattened the landscape below, the tactical display showed the dropships racing upward to rendezvous. Dropships 1 and 2 secured, announced the hangar officer. Dropship 3 has sustained damage, but is on approach. Target locked, reported the weapons officer. Protomatter warhead armed. Fire, Ilara commanded. The warhead streaked toward the partially collapsed facility, its trajectory precise despite the atmospheric interference. As it struck, a blinding white light erupted from the impact point, expanding outward in a perfect sphere of destruction. Singularity drive ready, Maya reported. Jump, Ilara ordered. Space warped around the Vindicator as the experimental drive engaged, tearing a hole in reality just as the protomatter reaction reached its peak. The ship vanished into the micro-singularity, escaping the devastating blast wave by milliseconds. When they emerged from the jump, the Epsilon Eridani system was barely visible in the distance, a new sun briefly flaring where the 4th planet had been. Status report, Ilara demanded, as emergency systems throughout the ship worked to stabilize damage. Shields critical but holding. Multiple hull breaches contained. Engineering reports the singularity drive is offline. We burned out key components on that jump. Casualties. 12 confirmed dead, 27 injured. Dropship 3 made it aboard with all survivors. Ilara closed her eyes briefly, acknowledging the sacrifice. What about the scientists we rescued? And Hexandar? Victor checked the reports coming in. 21 scientists recovered safely. No sign of Sandar or the 2 missing Beta team members. In the ship's medical bay hours later, Ilara spoke with Dr. Eliza Chambers, the lead scientist who had been held captive by the Harbingers. The woman was thin and pale, but her eyes burned with intelligence and relief. They didn't torture us, Eliza explained, her voice rough from disuse. They treated us as valuable resources. They wanted our help understanding the temporal mechanics we'd been researching before the attack. Why did you help them? Ilara asked, trying to keep accusation from her tone. Eliza met her gaze unflinchingly. Because they showed us what they were fighting against, what we all face if they're right. She handed Ilara a small data crystal. This contains everything we learned during our captivity, including records of something the Harbingers call the Void. It's not what you think, Captain. The Harbingers aren't villains. They're running scared, just like us. Later, in the privacy of her quarters, Ilara and her senior officers reviewed the data. Holographic displays showed recordings of entire star systems being consumed by a spreading darkness that defied physical laws, a cosmic cancer that fed on the energy signatures of advanced technologies. According to these records, Maya explained, the Harbingers were once the most advanced species in this sector. Their technology attracted this entity. They lost their homeworld and 3 colony systems before they realized what was happening. So they became the lesser evil, Victor said quietly, destroying civilizations before they could advance enough to attract the Void. There's more, added Eliza, who had been invited to the briefing. The temporal weapon they were developing wasn't just for attacking worlds. It was designed to seal breaches where the Void was beginning to penetrate our reality. Ilara stared at the recordings, watching worlds die. And Sandar, where does he fit into this? Maya hesitated. The data suggests the Varine weren't victims of the Harbingers as he claimed. They were collaborators with the Void, willing servants who saw it as a path to transcendence. A trap, Ilara realized. He led us there to destroy the weapon and the scientists working on it. The only real defense against this Void. The implications hung heavy in the room. Their mission of vengeance had unknowingly served a darker purpose. By destroying the Harbinger facility and the temporal weapon, they might have removed the only barrier between humanity and an even greater threat. What do we do now? Victor asked. Ilara stood, looking at the faces of her officers and the rescued scientists. The path forward was unclear, but one thing was certain. Their mission had changed. We find the truth, she declared. We learn everything we can about both the Harbingers and this Void. And then we make a choice, not based on vengeance, but on survival. Not just for humanity, but for all life in this galaxy. As the others filed out, Ilara remained, watching the holographic display of stars. Somewhere out there, the Void was spreading. Somewhere, the remaining Harbingers continued their grim crusade. And in between stood the HSV Vindicator, no longer just an instrument of retribution, but perhaps the last hope for a different path forward. The mission of Obliteration had transformed into something more complex and more important, a mission of understanding, and possibly salvation. The Vindicator's engines hummed to life once more, carrying humanity's survivors toward an uncertain future, and a choice that would determine the fate of worlds.